7 p.m. I'll call the Board of Selectmen to order on Tuesday, June 18th, 2019. At first, I will ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda for this evening?
Mr. Chairman, no changes from me.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
I will second.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair says aye. The agenda is approved. We have no announcements for this evening. And I will open up to public input. If anyone has public input for this evening. There being none, we will move along. First today we have Dr. Mary Malone, Superintendent of the Ayer Shirley Regional School District. Dr. Malone.
Is it up here?
And Ms. Granger.
Yes. Just bring this pass out a few packets for you. Okay. This is what you did. Oh, no, wait a minute. Hope I didn't give you mine. There should be red. I didn't give you yours. Does someone have red? No.
Red?
Yeah, there's a paper in the. Sorry.
Yours looks awfully thick. That might
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, here you go. Okay. Sorry about that.
Sorry, you can't ask me about red, I'm colorblind.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Well,
good
there's
eve-
red.
Yeah, just some of my notes. Good evening, Dr. Mary Malone, School Superintendent of the Ayer Shirley Regional School District, and Michelle Granger, Chair of the School Committee for the coming year. So I understand there's two agenda items. The first is an update on the Ayer Shirley Regional High School Field Project. And the folder that I gave you provides you information on the high school field project. And what you have in your packet is a memo. And then on the left-hand side are the proposals that we received from Flansburgh. And I'll refer to them. If you want to indulge me, I'll review this memo to you.
Please.
So thank you for meeting with us tonight. The school committee approved the school department to obtain actual costs for the high school field project for the original proposed plan. As you know, the field project was passed in a debt exclusion election in Ayer, but not in Shirley. So as a superintendent, I had to take the next steps to ensure a safe playing field for our athletes. And so rather than adding the cost to the town assessments, I asked the school committee to get some actual quotes because the plan that we had was from 2017. So quotes were solicited and Flansburgh was selected to cost out the project. The overall project increased from $7.1 million to approximately $11.9 million due to inflation and construction costs. So there was two factors. There was inflation at 5% in 2017 and inflation of 5.6% in 2018. And currently in 2019, we're at 1.4% inflation. And then the second factor for the increase for the same project was the increase in construction costs. As you all know, the market is very hot now, and so all of the construction workers are busy. So that would be option 1 and 2 in your project. All it really shows you is the same project and the costs and the increase. So due to the significant increase and the urgent need to improve our fields, a district committee was formed, including myself, athletic director, director of finance, superintendent of Ayer TPW, George Cruz from Flansburgh, Principal Christie, and Director of Facilities, to re-examine the project and reduce the scope based on need and affordability. Mr. Cruz presented option 3, which is in your packets, and that option came in at 7.4. And I'll talk in a few minutes about what we did to reduce it. And that option 3 consists of a new stadium, which was in the original plan, including a synthetic turf field, and refurbished baseball and softball fields. So if you recall, in the original master plan, we were going to move the softball field from its existing footprint down to the lower practice football fields, and that was a significant cost in the plan. So that's basically the reduced scope. We took that piece out of the project and used the existing footprint. So we then met to reduce the cost of option 3 with the goal of reducing the project to approximately $6 million. So with the soft costs, we have option 4, which is in your packet, and that option has the footprint and all the costs associated, and also a breakdown of every single cost to the project. We feel option 4 utilizes and maximizes the existing footprint to meet the athletic demands and needs of our students. It should be noted that the practice field will be enhanced and made ADA compliant and totally financed by the school department. So we went out and got 3 quotes for that, and it's gonna be around $40,000 just to remove the rocks.
Okay,
level-
that's the lower field?
Yes, lower the
Okay.
field, and then that access, which is, it's not ADA accessible, will now be made accessible. And how do we reduce costs? So we went from a 500-seat bleacher to 400 seats, and that reduced, in the 500-seat bleacher plan, there were 8 restroom facilities for the boys and 16 for the women, and it got reduced to 6 for the males and 12 for the females. The multi-purpose building, which in the last project, we were calling it concession stand, which a connotation of a concession stand is you're gonna serve some burgers and some dogs, but it really was a multi-purpose building, so we've renamed it. It's a 2,000-foot building, and it will include the ticket booth, as well as the bathrooms, as well as the mechanical room and a storage room. And I need to note that in the concession area, in the food area, would obviously have running water, which we don't have right now, but it also has to have a bathroom facility for the code for serving food. And then the press box, in the original plan, in plan option 3, which is the footprint, to make it AD compliant, we would have had to install an elevator around $100,000. So we reduced that cost by planning to build the press box on the hill of Page Hilltop. So the ADA accessibility will be from that end, and with the small ramp to go up to the top. And then the softball field will not be moved. And then we reduced the size of the retaining wall. So this plan still enables us to move the soccer field off the skin inlay of the baseball field, to move it back, and then install a retaining wall. We have to bring some fill and put in a retaining wall, which also enables the throwing events at the track to be held on that soccer field. The reduced scope plan maximizes the existing footprint and allows for every sport to be played at the high school for the next 50 years. It includes baseball, softball, football, soccer, lacrosse, track, and field hockey. And while I probably won't be here in 50 years, there'll probably be some other sports that'll come along, and hopefully we'll be able to accommodate that. So now, the finance piece of it. So this option
Before
for,
we get to the finance, Janice, do you have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just on
Just
the
a quick
project?
question.
sure.
And just curious, and because this kind of fascinates me, on the bathroom facilities being reduced, you reduced it to 6 for males and 12 for females. Is there a higher ratio of females, or
Yeah.
is it, yet the lines?
Yeah, that's the
never
code.
I think
get
it's all done by
reduced?
code.
And the lines have, that's a good.
Okay, I was just curious, all
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
thank you.
That's straight from Flansburgh. Excuse me. So, so the project, the option 4, the effective efficient plan option 4 is at $7 million. $6 million is for the actual refurbishing of the field and installation of the synthetic turf field, and the $100 million is for soft costs. And so at the last school committee meeting, the school committee voted to earmark $300,000 from the capital stabilization towards the 5% contingency cost in option 4. So if you look at that front page of option 4, you'll see 5% contingency for the project at $298,172. And I'm sure you're familiar with the high school project. Contingency fees are in case there's an increase to the project that was not planned for, you would go to the contingency fund. And then we still have the pledge of $500,000 or $500,000 from Mr. Norton. And so with the $300,000 from the capital stabilization, it reduces the maximum borrow from $7 million to $6.2 million. And this means the project cost of the town of Shirley is a maximum of $2.5 million over the course of 15 years. So again, the project was at $7 million. We're deducting, if you will, the pledge from Mr. Norton at $500,000, and then the school committee's commitment to earmark 300,000 of the capital stabilization towards contingency if needed, would bring the borrow up to a maximum of 6.2, which doesn't impact the the Ayer vote, because that vote was up to 7.1 million. So we've checked with Lock and Lord and the bond council, and does not need to be another vote in Ayer. So at the last school committee meeting, the school committee amended the original maximum borrow of up to 7.1 million to so the total amount of the project cap from the last meeting to reduce it to 6.2 million is the total amount to be borrowed to pay costs of the district athletic facility project as approved at a town election in Shirley on a date to be determined shall not exceed 6.2 million. And further, no amount shall be borrowed to pay costs of the district athletic facility project unless the town of Shirley shall have voted to exclude the amounts required to pay its allocable share of debt service on the amounts borrowed to pay costs of the athletic facility project from the property tax levy limitations on Prop 2.5, which is exactly what you had in the Ayer ballot. And so then we included the financial commitment for the 2.2 million borrow that will impose an Ayer and Shirley. This is projected over a 15-year life of the loan at 4% compounded daily. Ayer pays 58.5% of the capital debt. So for Ayer, it would mean the principal would be $3,627,000 over the 15 years, and the interest would be $1,293,948.
James?
Do you feel more confident when you go to Shirley this time, or?
We went to the Shirley Board of Selectmen meeting last night, Mrs. Granger and myself, and we requested that we respectfully requested that the Board of Selectmen approve a debt exclusion election on September 28th, Saturday, September 28th, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So they are taking that under consideration. There were a few things last night. They're constructing a follow-up email and a timeline, which I will send to both the Ayer Board of Selectmen and the Shirley Board of Selectmen, so a timeline for the project, because there is a time aspect to this. The construction is projected to begin in March 2020. And so these costs, he's built in the inflationary rate of 4%. That'll take us through that, so the cost wouldn't change. So there is a timeline that needs to be adhered to, hopefully, so that we can get the project off the ground with these costs and this plan.
And there'll be additional costs for playing on other fields too, that was brought up in the first go-around. That's going to be absorbed by the school district?
Oh, for the build, with the build out?
Yeah, during the building.
Yes.
Okay.
For transportation, we would have to do that work with other towns, absolutely. But this plan is, it utilizes, it maximizes, as I said last night, having a high school with athletic fields that accommodate baseball, softball, soccer, lacrosse, field hockey, football is an asset.
I agree.
Yeah.
I had a question, I just lost it. My apologies.
That's all right, take your time. I mean, you can look over the materials and of course send any questions at any time, and if you have additional questions, you might want to
Are
review.
you going to make the timeline and the project plans available to the general public soon?
Yeah, we will. I mean, we don't have a project until we get the debt exclusion election, passed in Shirley. But with the timeline, we'll show once, if and when the Board of Selectmen schedule the election in Shirley, we'll be able to go out and bid for design services, because we'll have a funding source to put into the RFP, so we can get that started sooner than later. So that will be in the timeline.
Okay, excellent.
I've got my fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think we were all disappointed that it didn't pass the first time around, and looking at the comparison of the project cost now compared to what was put before the voters shows how quickly things can escalate on the price. So hopefully this one will pass.
Yes, and there's some discussion that while we're getting less for the same amount of money, but we reduced a big portion of the project to accommodate what the voters voted in Shirley, the maximum borrow, and to include everything that the school officials and the coaches and the towns think is the best plan, which is to use the existing footprint because it's there.
Right.
And if you look at the cost, I could point out a couple of things when you review the cost. If you look at under the first page of the master plan reevaluation, the project cost breakdown, to do the fields is about $510,000, which is a minor part of the project. To refurbish the softball and softball and baseball fields, to move the soccer field out, and then to install the retaining wall would be $140,000, which was much higher in the last plan because of the way they engineered.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions on the athletic field?
No.
No? So we wish you the best.
thank you.
Talk to you, Shirley, friends.
And as I said, anything that I send up to Shirley BOS, I'll be sending to you as well, so everybody has the same information.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, appreciate that. The second item that is on the agenda is a discussion about initial steps for the elementary school here. So we've had some internal discussions here on the Board of Selectmen and also with other individuals in town, and we'd like to start looking at the process of looking at a new building for the elementary school. During the presentations for the first athletic fields, it came up that the Mass School building runway was about 7 years. And we feel like we need to at least start getting our ducks in a row now in order to try to minimize the amount of time that we're gonna need before, before we get to building a new elementary school. So our first question is, I guess, what would be the first steps? We know that, let me just throw this out there as kind of our grand vision, is that the Flansburgh report did have a possibility of putting a new building behind the current building, which wouldn't disrupt the schools during construction. But also from a town perspective, it would give us the possibility of being able to take at least the lower portion of the school back and utilize that for community space.
Nice.
Mr. Chair?
Please.
If I could just, on that, and as we've discussed, Dr. Malone, again, looking conceptually, one of the things we are doing is a feasibility study on the whole senior center and so forth. And that is one of the sites that we are looking at, again, conceptually. So as the chairman mentioned, if there is the ability to construct that school, we could potentially retain that, I call it the front building on Washington Street, and then repurpose that for various community needs.
I can speak to, so the school committee, and I don't want to speak for the school committee, Michelle, but we certainly it's not, it's still in the forefront, except right now the emphasis of focus is on getting this athletic field project through. And then so your question about what's the first step, so the MSBA will send out invitations. They invite you to submit a statement of interest, and that comes out around mid to late January, and then they're due usually around in April. So that would be the first step, to submit a statement of interest, and that would be directed by the school committee to me to write a statement of interest. And one of the considerations of the statement of interest is to determine is it elementary school here, elementary school in Shirley, or a regional elementary school, and that's formed by a committee. But first you have to prioritize in your statement of interest a school. You can write for more than one school, but there has to be a priority.
So, excuse me, apologize, I'm a little under the weather. The consensus that I feel from individuals I've talked to with younger kids particularly would like to keep the elementary school in Ayer's borders, next to the high school if possible. The other part of that, it's a central part of the community, but the other part of that is, honestly, there's a lot of frustration dealing with capital projects with Shirley. I think the fields are a prime example where Ayer supported it overwhelmingly, and then Shirley is the one that said no, and I believe we ran into similar issues when we were going through the high school project. So being able to do the capital project as a community standalone, I think would be more beneficial, because the concern of looking at a regional school is, one, it takes the elementary school out of Ayer. Two is dealing with two towns that have to now say yes, and possible delays with that. Page Hilltop, my kids went through Page Hilltop, and it was not bad when my kids were there, but when I do go in, it feels tired. I mean, they do a great job, the facilities do a great job with what's there, but it definitely feels tired compared to modern education.
Yeah.
I think
Sure.
one of the considerations for us is hearing from the towns that, they're ready, and, so is it fair to say that Ayer is kind of telling us that you're ready
From the
to?
Board of Selectmen, yes,
Yes.
we are telling you we're ready to at least start looking at it and moving forward.
Okay. What Flansburgh did prepare for us, and you could probably help me with this, is conceptual type. So we probably would want to make sure that, just for your knowledge, that putting a school back there really would be feasible.
Sure, yeah.
If that's something that you guys are looking at for space and that
Small
kind of
town, we don't really have anywhere else to put it.
Right,
That's the-
so we'll
Yeah.
have to make
that's the
sure.
challenge.
Yeah, and, that would be included in the statement of interest.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that information. So did I say information of interest, statement of interest, SOI? So then, obviously, that would be a collaboration, too, of working and developing and getting the information for the statement of interest, because they do require a lot of information, so.
Mhm.
Okay.
I've written them before in school committee, you've written them before for the high school project, so very familiar with it.
So I know from the selectman perspective, we're ready. Is there anything else you want us to put an effort into for information gathering to kind of get a better pulse from the citizens at large?
And even maybe hearing from the finance committee that they're also
Okay.
in support, it would be helpful.
Okay.
I know for myself, that's important for me to hear from both towns, before making a decision, that both towns are ready to move, because once we put in the statement of interest, we want to know that if we do get approved, that we're ready to move and that we're not going to lose our spot.
Okay.
And if there are any other questions, that I will tell you that we still are trying to keep the building with a heartbeat. So over the summer, we will be phasing in some new flooring, and we are going to definitely upgrade the boiler and the burner. And we're doing some other makeover spaces, and doing some sidewalk work in the front, and to make sure it's safe. And the other thing you should know is that we're moving creating an early childhood center at Page Hilltop. So we had 2 preschool classrooms over at Laura White and 1 classroom at Page Hilltop. So we're moving the 2 classrooms from Page Hilltop over to from Laura White over to Page Hilltop for a few reasons. One, a family partnership is located there, which serves our families in early intervention. The Ayer Child Care is also there, so preschool sessions are half day, so it's very hard to send a child to preschool if you don't have child care. So that works at, ACP just goes down and they bring the children. And the third piece is we have an articulation agreement with Mount Wachusett to start an early childhood program for our high school students. And so they would get dual credit and a pathway to move on to study early childhood and get a degree. So they would, in junior year, semester 1, they'll be taking psychology, and then semester 2, they'll be taking early childhood course, and then in the senior year, they'll do a practicum, which will be in the early childhood center. So I think that's exciting and new.
It is.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any other questions for Ms. Granger? Thank you both very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate the time.
Appreciate your time. And again, feel free to ask any questions. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, next this evening, we have Ms. Jessica Strunken, Senior Vice President from Devon's.
Good evening. Hello.
Evening. Thank you for coming this evening. How are you?
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm sorry to hear you're a little under the weather. I'm very impressed with your timing, however.
You guys really stick to an agenda.
I'm a quiet person, so I don't add a lot of
Wait, wait.
commentary.
Well, thank you for inviting me here tonight. If it's okay with you, I could offer a little background on
Please.
myself.
That would be great.
And then happy to discuss some issues. So, as you know, my name is Jessica Strunken. I've been in this role at Devon's for about 4 months. I consider myself a North Central girl. I'm originally from Fitchburg. I now live a little outside the region. I'm in Sterling, but I know this area quite well, and I've had the pleasure of working with both Robert and Carly in prior roles that they have held. I previously worked at the North Central Mass Chamber of Commerce doing government affairs, working on issues like the Ayer parking garage, for one. So as you heard me say
Is that
at
the first decade or the second decade?
A little of both.
It might be it might overlap
Rolling into
the
the
two.
third.
But as you heard me say at the groundbreaking, I was very excited to see that day finally come. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And in between working at the chamber and my role at Devon's now, I've been working for a regional economic development organization. So working with 35 communities as well as with major employers along the 495 corridor. So I'm excited to now be working in Devon's and working with the 3 communities surrounding Devon's, Shirley, Ayer, and Harvard. And I'm already, doing a lot of work there, but looking forward to doing more. And certainly I've welcomed the expertise and insights of Mark Wetzel on water issues, for one. So I've enjoyed working with him, and it's been great to coordinate and collaborate with Mark, as well as with Alan, as we're now working on a joint application for a MassWorks grant. So we look forward to continuing to work with Ayer on a lot of topics.
Excellent.
Did you have questions for me?
I don't have any specific questions. Any specific questions?
Not yet.
Okay. I would just add that, as was noted in a letter in April, we did decide to postpone the Vicksburg Square rezoning vote. So I think it's probably fair to bring that up here.
Yeah.
We don't have a new target date in mind, but we will be, now that I'm in this role, I thought it appropriate just to take a step back, learn more about the process and about input from the 3 towns as well as from Devon's residents and businesses. So again, we don't have a new target date in mind, but we do have fresh eyes on this topic, including myself, but also some new real estate folks at Mass Development. So, I'm looking forward to engaging with the towns as well as with Devon's community on this topic as we move forward.
Is the intent still to put residential?
Yes.
there?
Yep. So I can say that with confidence that the goal
Okay.
will again be to rezone for residential. I do fully expect that there will be a component of that has subsidized affordable housing. And in the last iteration, that was at approximately 25%.
Okay.
I think one of the other things to look at as we go forward is ancillary uses. Again, the last iteration looked at a cap of around 15%. So I think we're open to looking at that if there seems like there's more opportunity for mixed use and some
Okay.
other amenities.
So I'll give you a little bit on my background. I've served on the finance committee for 8 years, and we were adamantly against the original project.
Mhm.
And, from that, it opened my eyes to the challenges that our community would face having a very dense residential project put in. Though it's in Devon's, the historical boundaries are 75% air, but also just the proximity of services. Our concern is that our services will get drawn into Devon's for mutual aid and also for first response in some instances.
So I think that that's a very good question and an understandable concern. And we will be working on an FAQ as we move forward that I think will help answer questions like that and others that we've heard from the Devon's community. But I do think that's a fair question, and I've made note of it. And you know, I'm now in the kind of information gathering phase of you know, to hear what folks' concerns are or their ideas or what they're excited about.
Okay.
So I'm very open to continuing that conversation as we move forward.
Excellent. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome.
Nice to see you again.
Yes, you too. Is that all?
Yeah, well, Vicksburg Square is always my big concern.
Okay.
So that's all I have.
Well, and let me just say too that I see Alicia is next on the agenda. She and I have already spoken, and I see that the item tonight is about appointing members of the Affordable Housing Committee. So she and I have spoken about when appropriate for me to meet with them. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, wonderful.
yeah,
Wonderful.
good. Thank you very
Excellent.
much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, Jessica.
You want to open a window or something?
Yeah.
Or break a window or something?
It's out to bid. You gotta wait.
It's like 1,000 degrees in here.
You know,
Chair and you're sweating, I'm just saying.
It's not that. It's horrible. A little bit of nerves too.
Good evening. Good evening.
Hi, Alicia.
Oh, yay. Okay. Ken said no. Ken, come on up. He told me to sit
Ooh, Alicia brought company.
Yes. Guess who?
Hi, how are you?
You never saw her before.
So bubbly.
you're so low energy.
I know that, I know.
Thank
I
you
should
for
take
coming
more
tonight,
feedback from
Alicia.
Scott. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. I'll turn it over to you.
So, the town of Ayer had Ayer Community Development Advisory Committee back in 2009. They met about 2 or 3 times, and it never really got off the ground. But there's a number of things that the Community Development Office could really use having this committee in place. They are also the advisory. They're the for any grievances in our rehab program and things like that. And so one of the things in the master plan this time was that we put the advisory committee or an Ayer Affordable Housing Committee into place so that we could get some advice from other departments and boards from other departments and the community and things like that. So one of my goals task that was from the master plan was last year to get this going. And we took a lot of time trying to find the best mix. And I think that this is a wonderful mix of people. We have gotten together, and I think this will really work. We have Janet Janet Provadakis from CPC and Ayer Housing Authority, and do you have other titles?
Oh, don't even go there.
Okay.
We'll be here all night.
Yes. And we have Ken Diskin from the Planning Board. We have Ron Morrison, who is the local realtor in town. We have Stephen Quinn, who sat on our master plan housing committee. Dr. Hillary Curtis, who used to run the Advocates program, the drug court program, and is now a mental health provider up at the hospital. We have Steve Wenzel, who is will be a social worker by the end of the summer. He's finishing his master's on that. And Karen Swanfield from the Council of Aging. So it's a really good group, and we've already started talking about, in a preliminary way, about what this committee could do. And we'd like your input on that as well, if you have any things that you want to task us with. But what I'm asking is that for you, if you have any questions about any of the people we're recommending.
I don't have any questions.
It's a great mix.
Yeah, I agree. I think you put together a great list. Input from within the town organization and outside of the town organization. So thank you.
And we're finding that it's a great mix. It's all sorts of information that's really crossing boundaries and giving us a lot to work with. So,
Great chemistry.
yeah.
Good discussions.
Yeah. So we want to make it official. If you guys could appoint and get, if we could get your blessing. So,
Oh, breathe.
Thank you.
I know the man's melting over here.
And possibly what I do want to talk about, just for a moment, is that the master plan goals were things, I listed them here, and we do have very strong housing goals on the master plan. And we really do want to start our community outreach with the committee, because that gives us a real balance to go and take care of some of these goals. And as Jessica said, she is asked to come talk with the committee and work with us. So, and we'd love to hear what your reservations are about Vicksburg Square. Was it just the design?
It's, when you look at the potential impact to the community for that, just that dense, regardless, well, the first project was the amount of low-income housing.
Yeah,
was a big concern, because it was
Yeah.
up to 80%.
Yeah.
The current project, it was just that number of people. I mean, regardless of what the socioeconomic breakdown is, it's just plopping, upwards to 600 people in a very rural setting. With, they rely on the state police, so therefore I don't know what their coverage is like. So, to quote Chief Murray from years ago, so whenever you get that many people together in a condensed area, you're always going to have something that's going to come up, and that would draw on our services and possibly impact the services here in town.
Well, it's not unheard of to have Board of Selectmen on the Affordable Housing Committees. I know of ones that are on in other towns, so if anybody's interested, we do have room. So, so that's just a little plug.
So you have 7 people listed here. Is there a cap to the number? on the committee?
We haven't put a cap on it
Okay.
because we're really trying to make sure the discussion is complete and full. So,
So
and
you could come back, I'm sorry.
one of the
No,
things
please.
that we're
You could
looking
come back
at.
with a few more
Yes,
recommendations? Okay.
yes. And one of the things that we are looking for right now is to look at a housing trust. And just as you did the Conservation Trust for CPC, but we also passed an inclusionary zoning bylaw that has an in lieu payment that in it for developers if they're building multifamilies. So with a trust, you can use that trust to help you not only design and look for aspects of affordable housing, what we want, but also if there's monies to be awarded, they can oversee that. And usually with a housing trust, we do have somebody, either from the financing committee or the Board of Selectmen, things like that. That's a different makeup. But this committee's looking at we're reviewing housing trusts at this, that's one of the things that's going to be on the list.
Okay.
So,
And that's one thing that CPC funds can be used for, to help, just like we did with the Conservation Fund.
Right.
All right, so with that, I know that the individuals, citizens of Ayer, really want to do something well with affordable housing and try to use monies well. So that's a good thing
The CPC surcharge is still just 1%?
right now.
Okay.
Right now. Again, if it's used, like I say, the whole thing behind it is if we can go ahead and show on how the monies, which we've got success stories going up on the website, and how the monies have been helping with all the different affordable housing projects within town, the Habitat for Humanity, all the other different, Fletcher's Building, the firehouse now, so with that, it's like, these are the monies that, and again, it can be earmarked, as we talked about it at the last meeting, so that the monies can more go towards the affordable housing, because that is where the focus is.
Yeah, and even looking at other communities and seeing what other communities have done with their community preservation funds for housing, for affordable
Correct.
housing
Yeah.
is a good example too.
Mm-hmm.
yes, and that's part of what this committee's doing. We're doing a lot of, deep research and understanding, and we'll come back to the town with some suggestions and some looking for input.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent.
Well, with that, I would like to make a motion to appoint the listed, as listed by Alicia, to the new Ayer Affordable Housing Committee.
And I will second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye. It is passed.
Thank you
Right.
very much. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. I need buckles. Thank you very much.
This sounds
luck.
great, this sounds great.
You got
See you.
it. You got it.
I keep forgetting I have to call the vote. Next night, we have Dan Van Schalwick, is that am I saying that correctly?
Scalquick.
So,
That's
sorry.
all right.
My
How's it
apologies. I wanted to
The
say
dude,
that loud.
Scalquick.
Scalquick?
Yeah. Sounds easier than
We
it
don't often
looks.
say your last name, we just say Dan.
Dan
So it's been a while
Van,
since I
Dan,
heard it
there you
said
go.
out loud.
Yeah.
Welcome, Dan. Thanks for coming this evening.
Yeah, good to be here. Yeah, I'll drive.
All right.
Thanks. All right, so yeah, I came tonight just to give an update on the first year of our MS4 stormwater permit. It went into effect July 1 of 2018, and it's a 5-year permit. And there are certain requirements we have each year to that we have to take care of to comply with the permit. So just kind of to start off, what is an MS4 permit? MS4, it stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. And it's a program EPA implemented since 1990. And the first small MS4 permit we had was in 2003. And that's the one that was recently updated, and our new permit became effective July 1st, 2018. And so we have a NIPD's permit, and we have specific responsibilities required by the permit, as I mentioned. The permit's basically broken down into 6 minimum control measures, they're called. Public education and outreach is the first. I don't know what happened there. Public involvement and participation is second. Third is illicit discharge detection and elimination. So that's just looking for anything going down the drain that's not rain. So, for example, if there's a cross connection of sewer into the storm drain. Fourth, construction site stormwater runoff control. Fifth, stormwater management in new developments and redevelopments. And the last one is good housekeeping and pollution prevention. So in year 1, some of the general requirements we completed. We submitted our notice of intent to the EPA and Mass DEP to be covered by the new permit on September 28th, 2018. We submitted that. It included our proposed measures to meet the permit requirements. You can't really see the cover page I put in there, but down in the middle. And we also have to have a stormwater management program completed by July 1st, 2019. So it's our overall program to address stormwater pollution. It basically lays out what we're doing, who's doing it, when. And it's a living document. And it's actually right now it's on our website as a draft for public input, because it's a public process EPA and DEP really wants you to have with this program. So right now it's still up on the website for a couple more days, and I've had a few good comments from some residents. So that's been drafted, and we'll have that completed by July 1. So for MCM1, that's the public education control measure. For year 1, we had to distribute some educational pamphlets, and kind of it'll be kind of tough to track how those are received and how they actually work to better our stormwater. Like the first one was, for example, we sent out a fats, oils, and grease pamphlet to restaurants just to give information on restaurants and how they should be cleaning out their grease traps, their kitchen grease traps regularly, and their traps that are out on their parking lot areas and their massive grease traps. Because you can actually see a picture on the pamphlet there. That's grease buildup in one of the sewer pipes. That's actually from Ayer when we did TV work. Was it, I think, last year? So that can create blockages, and then you can have backups and SSOs, sanitary sewer overflows. So it could back up and come out into the street. We don't typically have many SSOs, but there's potential. So in that pamphlet, we also discussed handling wastes out exterior, like in dumpsters, and making sure dumpsters aren't leaking into storm drains and things along that nature. And we also sent out a pamphlet to developers just regarding stormwater management for construction sites. So informational, just to keep it in their minds. Second minimum control measure is public involvement. So I mentioned the draft stormwater management program is on the website for review. The Ayer roadside cleanup was conducted April 27th and 28th. We maintained our stormwater hotline, which is the DPW number. And we continue to promote Devon's household hazardous waste collection, and we have mercury waste collection at our transfer station. We're currently reviving the stormwater committee, and one reason we'll definitely want to have that is we're looking at updating our stormwater bylaws. We have 2 bylaws, our NIPD's Phase 2 bylaw and our IDDE bylaw. And with the new permit, there might be some things we want to change with those bylaws. We're going to start looking at that for hopefully a fall town meeting update. And then part of MCM2 is an annual public update, which is what we're doing right now. So minimum control measure 3, in year 1 for IDDE, we compiled an inventory of our sanitary sewer overflows, which there was 2 of them, and they were not very major. We prepared a written IDDE program, so that's the program that we're going to use to implement our illicit discharge and detection and elimination. And basically what you do is you start out by doing dry weather screening at all the outfalls, and so you see if there's flow at an outfall during dry weather, and if there is, you sample it, and if it comes out to be sewage or something that's not stormwater or groundwater, then you chase it upstream to try to find the illicit connection. And then as part of that, we completed an initial outfall ranking, which basically is your most sensitive outfalls you rank high priority, and your least sensitive are low priority based on where they're discharging. So if it's discharging right to a pond, it's high priority. Minimum control measure 4, construction site stormwater runoff control. For this, we drafted written procedures for site inspection and enforcement for erosion and sediment control. These aren't completed yet, they're just draft, but I'd hope to get them implemented as part of our bylaw update, to our NIPD's Phase 2 bylaw update. We have site plan review procedures in place that meet our permit requirements, and like I mentioned, we're going to review and update the town bylaws. MCM5, there wasn't much to do this year. If a town was new to the MS4 permit, they would have had to implement town bylaws, which we already have from 2008, but there were no other best management practices required. And then good housekeeping. So we do annual catch basin cleaning. We're almost done with that. Sal's been out around town recently with the clamshell, cleaning out all the basins. We do scheduled street sweeping 2 times per year throughout town. Main Street is weekly, except in the winter, and the other main roads about 7 times per year. And then we inspected our stormwater treatment structures, such as the rain gardens, and that's a vortex unit, it's called, on the right, which separates oils, greases, floatables, and sediments, and we have to make sure we clean out all the sediments from that, but they were working pretty good. So then, to look ahead to next year for the MS4 permit, we have more public education messages to complete. We'll have to update the SWIMP again, like I said, it's a living document, and also have public review. We'll begin implementation of our IDDE plan, the dry weather screening, and the stormwater bylaw updates. Inventory and develop O&M procedures at all town facilities, so that's a new requirement of this permit. So we're going to have to look at all the town facilities and see what we can do to evaluate impacts to water quality and what we can do for operation and maintenance practices. And then we also have to create stormwater pollution prevention plans for our maintenance garages, transfer stations, and other waste handling facilities. We have to establish road salt use optimization program. So it's basically we'll have to come up with a program to most efficiently use our road salt and not liberally use it. So I haven't looked into it as to exactly what we'll do, or if we have to look at alternatives, but I'll have to find out what exactly that will
I
require.
think people have gotten used to a really certain level of clear
I
roads.
I know, that's what I've been
Our
thinking.
town
You
always
tell
seems
Doug to
be-
use
have
less
some
salt.
of the best cleared roads around.
Hey Doug, use less salt this time. No. There's additional requirements we have near sensitive receiving waters, which are part of the permit we'll take care of. And then we have an annual report due at the end of September, and we'll do our infrastructure and outfall improvements. We've been doing those every year. We have some money in our operating budget, and we've typically been doing roads where we're going to be paving, just making sure that the stormwater in those areas are in good shape. But so we'll move forward with those in year 2. So how are we implementing the MS4 permit? Right now, we've done all the work in-house. Myself, engineering and GIS interns have assisted, and the highway department obviously helps take care of the roads and the storm drain system. The conservation agent will be assisting with public education and involvement during this next year, and we will coordinate with other departments as required. We will have a consultant come on board next year to assist with the IDDE implementation. It's a lot of grunt work, going out to outfalls and doing sampling and chasing the illicit discharges if there are any. And then kind of to talk about budget, there's a lot on this slide, but if you kind of look at the bottom, I don't know the mouse, but oh, thanks. So this is EPA's estimate of the overall annual cost of an MS4 program. And so they say anywhere from $100,000 to about $250,000 roughly would be the cost to implement a program. And then I have a slide next as to what we are doing right now. So we have an operating budget of $272,700 for operations, maintenance, and upgrades. $32,000 is directly for the MS4 requirements, and then $200,000 is for the infrastructure upgrades I was talking about. So we don't have a lot of money toward the MS4 program, but we are doing a lot of work in-house, which is saving a lot of money because the EPA costs figure for consultants to be doing a lot of work and outside contractors. But we could always be doing more. So then I have, I think, one more slide. But should Ayer revisit the Stormwater Utility Enterprise Fund? So just going back in time, the Stormwater Enterprise Fund was approved at 2011 annual town meeting. DPW evaluated utility implementation, including operating and capital costs, budget, and fee options. The recommended fee was $3 per month per equivalent residential unit, which would generate about $250,000 to $300,000 for stormwater infrastructure and operations. So this would be outside the tax levy because it's an enterprise fund. BOS voted not to implement the enterprise in 2015, and then a fall town meeting in 2015, the fund was eliminated due to a lack of a funding mechanism. So that's a good question to have out there if we want to do that, and that's the end of my update for year 1. Do you have any questions?
Janice?
So in 2015, the board did vote to not fund it. And part of the reason why is because it was quite controversial, not only here in town, but nationally. It was being discussed because basically we were going to be going out and measuring people's driveways. And the fear was at the time that people would then decide not to improve their driveways. So what about just a flat fee? Other towns do just a flat fee and not having to do with how big
Based on
your driveway
impervious
is.
areas.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you don't, we need it, we need the fund, okay? But at the same time, you don't want people saying, well, because when I bought this house, it had this really big driveway and now I'm having to pay so much money because of this big driveway, I'm just gonna let my driveway, you know, fall apart. Because then if you come out and measure, I'm gonna show you, well, this part, you know, look, it fell apart, you can't count that part. And now people's homes start looking bad, which makes the town look bad, no one wants to move into the town, so it all snowballs. That
Yeah.
was the discussion for 2015.
Yeah, and I'm not sure too much on the background of the funding and looking at the fee structure, if a flat fee was looked at. I think it, I'm not sure if you recall, Robert.
I think it was.
I think it was, but yeah, we would have to
Robert, if you
look at
have
all
more to add,
options
please feel
again,
free.
I would think.
So, Mr. Chairman, through you, and Selectman Livingston, to build on that, is that was exactly what happened. The added piece too was, in the proposal that we put forward, there was a formula for the large, industrial and commercial based on the impervious as opposed to a flat fee, and that was received obviously with some opposition from the industrial and business community. I would just offer that from my vantage point, I think that we do need to revisit it, and perhaps, as Selectman Livingston mentioned, is it a flat fee? I mean, there's all different permutations and so forth, but as Dan's financial slide, and we've been talking about it, these mandatory unfunded mandates on the stormwater, can you just
Go there,
you just put your sign right back up? So,
This one?
no,
Or
the next one.
Yeah. Thought I went.
There.
Oops.
Oops, it's okay. There.
I'm not driving.
So, obviously, we've been funding this through the general fund, but this number continues to increase, and there's no, like in our other enterprise funds, there's no, if you will, revenue stream. And I get it, the last thing, taxpayers and so forth, another fee or so forth. But the reality is, not only is this not going to go away, and it's federally mandated, it's getting bigger. So I think that it does warrant, I think, a revisitation as to what can we do to move forward, what would be palatable, and what would generate some revenue to move forward with this, and also provide some relief on the general fund side.
Yeah, so if we did a fund, it would take the 272,000 out of the general fund, or at least reappropriate it to
Mhm.
somewhere else.
So it still comes out of the general fund. I mean, technically speaking, everything
Yeah.
comes out of the general fund. But we're gonna just create, depending on what happens, generate another form of revenue that would basically flow through the general fund and back into the enterprise.
Correct. I think it is time to look at it again.
Right. I mean, ultimately.
I agree.
Ultimately, if it gets to the final point, it's ultimately up to the town meeting, but I think it's time to revisit and look at all the options. Good job.
Good, all right. Anything else? All
Excellent.
Thanks.
right,
Yeah, thanks very
Thank you,
much.
sir.
all right.
Thank
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks.
you just
All right.
coming by.
Yep, have a good night.
You
Thank
too.
You too. Up next, we have Ms. Susan Copeland, the town clerk. Ms. Copeland, how are you this evening?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for coming by this evening.
Not a problem. So at the last meeting, this discussion had come up about town meeting and town election. And the question's been, comes up year after year after low turnout, what can be done? So after the last meeting, I did a little more solid research, if you will, or questioning. So I reached out to the clerk community to get their opinions on towns that have switched to Saturdays. Have they considered Saturdays? And it's, across the Commonwealth, how do you keep participation going, as well as even town election participation. So overall, and I think we all, and everybody in the room understands that town meeting attendance is issue driven. It's really, what is the topic? or what is the hot button item that gets people in there to vote. And we even saw it in the fall. There was a popular topic, and they moved the question sooner in the meeting, and even after the vote was taken, a lot of people left because that's specifically why they're there. So it's, and I don't know how to overcome that, but that is, a hard battle to fight. And I also pulled the department heads here because not only have a lot have been working in Ayer, but also from other communities, so they could give feedback on what their communities do. So I guess the first question is, or topic, is town meeting, moving it to Saturday. And it's sort of a mixed vote that I got from a lot of folks. A lot of clerks viewed it as just as difficult as any weeknight because you have the same blocks with extracurricular activities, or it's not even with children, it's with people's personal lives. That's I think the other factor that came out of a lot of discussions is that a lot of homes are two-income households. It'd even be hard-pressed to say 20, 30 years ago, there may be a one-income household where there was a second person that had sort of the availability to be more involved. And now everybody's exhausted at the end of the day, regardless if you have children or not. You have a household and a long day at work. So it is difficult to get people in the seats. But Saturday, I was very surprised. I actually thought I would get more positive feedback on Saturdays, and I actually got very little positive feedback on Saturdays, whether it was from clerks, whether it was from people in town, and from even my colleagues, where it was Saturday got a big X of moving town meeting to Saturday. I thought it was very interesting. A lot of people were quicker to say, no, absolutely not. So I thought that was pretty interesting because I really thought Saturday has always seemed to be a great alternative, but it was really met with a lot of, no, absolutely not.
And I think part of the challenge that Robert and I were talking about is what time would you start? Because you need to find that magic start time where you don't have to break for lunch, so people actually don't leave and then.
Yeah, it was very
come back.
interesting in some of the communities about taking a lunch break and then you got to come back. There's some communities, it was really interesting. I didn't get the exact details, but they would have town meeting in the morning and election in the afternoon, their annual election in the afternoon. And I think that's a long day. That's a lot of thinking. And I was just like, wow, that's a lot of work in one day. But if it works for that community and they get, the involvement, that's fine. But I thought, no, that didn't work. But so I think the date, there was a few folks that even said, why Monday? Because Monday just has that look of it's Monday. Yes, the worst. You're just starting out the week. Why Monday? So I know it's been asked, what if it was a different weekday night, if it was Tuesday or Wednesday? What about starting it at 6? Because I know May so much isn't the factor, but in October, it is a little bit darker out. So sometimes at the end of the day, you just want to go home. But even if it started at 6 and, you don't have so long of a gap from the end of your work day, you just kind of forge right into it. But that came up a lot, as a lot of people asked, why can't it be earlier? That came a lot from parents, which is a great point. We always talk about childcare being available. And I would always kind of laugh at that because at 7 o'clock, my kids, if they need daycare or a babysitter, their bedtime is within 30 minutes. It's by Article 3. And I'm not going to be thinking about what's being discussed on the floor because I'm thinking about I need to get my miserable kid home because they're tired. So it's like childcare is a great thing to offer, but it doesn't get taken advantage of because kids are usually in bed at that time. So
That's a good point.
You know, the 7:30, 8 o'clock, and those are the witching hours of bedtime. So that's why I think a lot of parents don't take advantage of it. But maybe doing an hour earlier start just might work out. I don't know. It's just, that was some of the suggestions I got.
Well, I think it's not just, you know, parents and families and whatnot, but I agree. I think if we could start a little earlier, because in the fall that would help. Because we do have a lot of people, majority of them, senior citizens who are having a problem driving at night. But let's also be fair. There's some younger people that are having a problem driving at night too.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think that starting an hour earlier would be nice because, I mean, for me, I mean, I don't have kids, but by the time I get home and I've eaten dinner and then I'm sitting for a little while and I'm watching the clock going, don't fall asleep. Maybe I can have a quick 20-minute nap before I go to the town meeting because, you know, that extra time all of a sudden becomes very painful.
Yeah.
So I do think that at least starting a little earlier could be a big advantage.
So
and the Saturdays,
Saturday is tricky. I was really impressed.
But Saturdays is still notoriously, that's our day off.
Yeah.
That's when I am going to, you know, take the trash to the transfer station, or I want to go someplace with my family. So yeah, Saturday still has kind of that connotation. But
and I think with kids on Saturday, usually there's sports and other activities that go on. So there's I think a bigger conflict than doing it at night.
Right.
Yeah, I personally was never sold on the Saturday because I think you get an initial uptick, but it tends to wane after a while.
Yeah, but I thought, like I said, the discussion of maybe shifting it to a different night, as well as a 6 o'clock start.
What about a Thursday night?
Or any of those, Tuesday,
You know, it's
Wednesday,
towards the
Thursday.
end of the week.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting excited because the next day's
Possible.
Friday.
Yeah. So I mean, I think those are good things.
But finally Friday. Oh yeah.
I do just, Robert, the town moderator was invited tonight, is that correct?
Yeah, I spoke to him. I won't speak for him.
Okay,
But when
I
I
just
did
wanna
talk to
clarify
him,
for
he did want me to mention he was in favor of the town trying a Saturday. Is what he put. He understands it's ultimately up to town meeting.
Okay.
And then another part, just the money part that I think of is holding, we hold it at the schools, so what is the impact financially? Is that considered overtime for the staff? Is it a different, and I'm not even sure if I don't exactly know all the details financially, but those are things to also consider. Is there a financial change to it as well? And obviously it wouldn't be thousands of dollars, but still every penny counts. So that's something to also think of as well, and how much more might conflict with other paying customers that they're renting out facilities to. So, but it's interesting to those communities that have switched to Saturdays. Most have on their fall warrants to change back to a weeknight. So it's already starting to, and that's within less than a 5-year turnaround of them going back. Because again, it's the, of using the schools or wherever they're having their town meeting. It's the cost as well, to only have 200 for some of these. Their show-offs with 200, but so that was that on about town meetings on Saturdays. And the second part of the topic was the town election date, which has also been a great question mark. We hold our town election about 2 weeks before. It's the last Monday in April, and then the second Monday in May we have town meeting. And why do we have town election before town meeting? And that's been a question I've heard about from years, even before I was a clerk. So that was a good question as well to ask. And I would say about 65% of communities have their town meeting before the town election, which makes sense, especially if you can have changeover with our Board of Selectmen, to have someone come in and even for myself, to be elected and 2 weeks later be at town meeting as clerk. It's quite a lot to take in. So if you haven't been, if you're not quite ready, I was okay ready.
What would be the process to make the change?
So that again would be a warrant article. It would be brought to the town meeting floor to discuss. So, the big question mark is how far do you, obviously this is something like, again, we would vet all, and I would certainly help lead with vetting all public information sessions and getting the information out, holding, if it's here at the library or the police station, that's been welcomed to just talk to residents and sort of get more understanding of what they would like and what would help them to participate. But I think changing town election before town meeting is a great step forward to, no, I said that backwards. Moving town meeting before town election is a good step in the right direction. And then secondly, the day and time of town meeting, which is also in our bylaws, would need to be addressed. I don't know if that's doing them on one warrant, town meeting. Huh? I think so as well. Yeah, I don't know how, I don't want to say aggressive.
Do we have to specify which day of the week that we have town meeting, so we have to
Yeah, so this would also be
specifically
the
say a
opportunity to
Tuesday or
change it to a
Wednesday, or can
Tuesday.
we
Most
leave
folks,
it
that's
kind of
another question I have,
open?
especially from young voters, that why is it on a Monday? Our local town elections always is on a Monday. And, why don't we change it if we wanted to change it to a Tuesday? I don't know about that step.
Yeah.
So, on it, just changing it, if the town wanted to change it to a Tuesday, that could also impact town hall hours on that Tuesday, because a lot of town employees need to be at the town meeting. So if we had town meeting on Tuesday and we are also moving it to 6, how does the town hall close early that day?
Oh,
Just asking.
yeah, I'm sorry. I was talking about town election, about moving town election as well, but
Oh, town election on a Tuesday.
yeah, because
Okay.
it's on a Monday. I think town meeting could,
Could go any other night.
yeah, I think any night but Monday. It seemed like it was like, why Monday?
I wouldn't do town meeting on a Tuesday due to how that might affect the town hall.
Yeah.
I suppose closing it 1 hour early wouldn't really affect
And I
things,
think-
but.
We could do what we call a skeleton crew. Obviously, Robert and I would be at a town meeting, but if Susan was at the town meeting, her office would still be open till 7, where Lori's there, the tax collector. More of the surface offices where people are coming in, we'd make sure that we had it staffed appropriately
Okay.
to make sure they were
Part of the
open.
conversation.
Yeah. So, and then as far as, what I was saying about town election, it's also been questioned why town elections are on Mondays, because a lot of people align election day with a Tuesday. So I don't know if that's something worth discussing.
I think it is, and
Yeah.
I know there's also been discussions of possibly moving it to Saturday, so the polls don't have to be open for as long as
So
they
the
are.
poll, that works as well on weekdays. That can be followed, like the towns. It has to be a minimum of 8 hours.
Yeah, but it can
for-
be a challenge for working people.
Yeah, because they would need to be open no later than 12. So say if we didn't open at 7 a.m. Or 8 a.m. if it was to open at noon to 8 p.m. There would be people coming in all morning looking to vote, but they also come in on Tuesday. They also come in on Tuesday looking to vote because Tuesday's election day. So, there's different variables that can be looked at as
So
well.
something you wanted to add?
Well, I think Tuesday is a good idea because people have associated with town hall being open late on Tuesdays, so that would actually maybe work for a lot of people because they're just so used to well, town hall's open late on Tuesdays anyways. And in this case, it would only be open, only the polls would be open for the extra hour.
Right, which is how it is for primaries and the general
Right,
election and so forth. So,
I think Tuesday might be a good idea.
Robert?
Mr. Chairman, so looking at what I call sort of the three parts, the easiest part is the hours of the election. In other words, the town clerk has the authority to do that, and a minimum of 8 hours. You know, we've traditionally been, 13?
13, yeah.
I mean, that decision can, and I think you make a good point. We obviously want to maximize participation, yet on the flip side, having been in the building, sometimes there's a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
So the other two, the town meeting, the date and time, it has to be specific by the bylaw. So in other words, right now is the second Monday at 7 p.m. So you'd be looking at a bylaw change for the date and time. So like if the proposed article I'm just throwing out was the fourth Saturday to convene at 9 a.m. What I'm getting at is for the article, if the board to put that forward, we will need to at some point decide what the date and the time. Unfortunately, we can't leave it flexible. That has to be specific. And the same with the election. In other words, if the election was to be convened at the second Saturday in May. The last thing, just from my time here, coming up on 9 years, I have noticed that the issue of the Saturday comes up a lot. And perhaps, and I was talking to the town clerk about this as well, and I appreciate her research. Perhaps we need to look at the Saturday issue. And what I mean by that is put it before, and I agree with the town clerk about doing whatever is decided, doing as much public outreach, but put that Saturday, out there, to the voters at town meeting, and then try it. And I don't say that lightly. I'm just saying if it has to pass. If it doesn't pass, then nothing changes. But if it was to pass and then it didn't work, I mean, there is the mechanism to change it back. It's not easy, and I'm not saying that lightly, but I know that the Saturday issue, it continues to come up year after year, and I do appreciate Susan's research on that, and did find some of the findings interesting. But I think we're pretty having the election before the town meeting, that is an anomaly, more so for Ayer than most places.
Yeah.
So and Robbie, you can put your 2 cents in on this, move town meeting back before the election, move the election to after the current town meeting schedule. So the elections would end up being pushed back to end of May timeframe. Or would you move town meeting earlier?
From my vantage point, I'll just weigh in on this. I know it was brought up at previous meeting, for example, to propose having, say, the town meeting the fourth Saturday in April. Okay? That type of a change with the town meeting and the election will impact the budget process and so forth. As I was saying to Susan, we were discussing if a date, because this has come up sometimes, that like Westford I know is in March and summer. As we go earlier in the year, and I know that Selectman Hillman had brought this up before, like around the April vacation, so we just have to be cognizant of the notification period for the budget for the school district and us. But if we're within a 2-week framework of where we are now, 2 to 3 week, it would be seamless from the administrative end. I don't know from the election end.
Yeah, I always fall to, we have absentee ballots when it comes to election. So I always try to encourage that as much as possible. And I've actually seen an increase in that. So I try to, with the elections, I do have that to fall back on. And early voting is really helping with that as well. It's not for local elections, but then I can open up the discussion of using absentee ballots. I don't think it would impact so much, but I would keep that kind of time frame. I don't think we would want to go any later, I guess, than like the third week in May for either events, because then you're running into crunch time.
Okay. So thank you for the information. It was eye-opening, particularly around the Saturday.
I was very surprised. I thought there would actually be more support for it, and there just wasn't, and I was very surprised. And that was across the board. that I asked, so.
Okay. Janice, do you have any other questions? Okay. So what is our next step then? Do we want, what do you foresee?
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I think as brought up at the other meeting, if the town is going to do something, it should be put before the voters in the fall. So we have obviously a little bit of time before the warrant. So the question is, the big question is the issue of the day and time of the town meeting. I think the election issue, this, and I could be wrong, but moving the election, I don't think is the controversial part. I think it makes sense. The hours of the election, it's ultimately to the Board of Registrars and the clerk, and we can work on that. So then the issue is the issue of a Saturday, now another, weekday or time. Ultimately, putting the article forward is in the hands of the BOS, because as brought up, a citizen's petition would require about 150 signatures. So I think the challenge before us is what level of diligence or further does the board want to do in trying to isolate this issue of the day and the time?
Do we want to, I hate doing these survey, like to put a survey out for a couple of weeks? I mean.
No, I know, but it's true, yeah.
Just ask the question. Janice?
What was it, about 2 years ago, we did a survey and we were asking about town meeting being moved to a Saturday, and I believe the results were like, no. I think, I'm not against surveys, but I'm wondering if it's time to just flat out ask the question. Because, I mean, at some point, you can ask the surveys, but then if people don't necessarily see any action after a survey, which sometimes happens because of the results of the survey. But I'm wondering if because this has been discussed so many times over the years, if it's just time to just pick a date and time that we think, and then just throw it at them.
Okay. I have no problem with that either. Okay, excellent.
So in terms of timeline, Mr. Chair, I mean, obviously, the decision doesn't have to be made tonight. I tend to agree with Selectman Livingston, and I would be partial to the Saturday only because I think we need to flush that issue, however it's decided, because that keeps coming up. But the board would have probably until the middle of September is when the warrant will have to be finalized. We have all of the language, if you will. It would be the $50,000 question is the day and the time.
Okay, Janice?
So a quick question. So we've done this for other articles. I've forgotten what specifically. But is it possible for us to have two articles? One asking town meeting, do you want to vote for the Saturday? And then if the Saturday gets passed, we don't have to ask the second question. But if the Saturday doesn't get passed, then we can say, okay, what about having town meeting on Wednesday at 6 p.m.? Is it possible to have the two?
Table the second article
Right.
if the first one passes.
Yeah.
I
Because
was,
we've done that before for other certain articles.
so yes, so the simple answer is yes. The board could put multiple,
Like a Saturday and then Wednesday at 6 o'clock.
yes.
So if Saturday fails, they can look to move it to a different day.
Right.
And I was just gonna say, excuse me, that I would
Sure.
envision it as two separate questions anyway, like should we move the election later first?
Yes.
So that way it's an all or not, it's not an all or nothing vote.
Yeah.
We could do should we move the election to this day at this time? And should we move the town meeting to Saturday? If yes, then we don't need it to ask the second question.
Right.
Yeah, agreed.
And then the last thing, just to be cognizant of this, then is the article. The article could potentially also be subject to amendment. You know what I'm saying?
Very
So,
true.
I mean, just so, and again, so it could be a very interesting town
It
meeting,
could.
but
Well, hopefully, the only amendment would be instead of starting at 9 a.m., they'll say, let's start at 8:30 a.m. or something like that.
you know, and not too crazy.
Okay.
Sounds
Excellent.
good.
Thank you very much.
All right, you're
Any
welcome.
other questions?
Thank you.
No?
Uh, Well, sort
You
of
have
a
one more
request.
item, correct?
Yes, one more item.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Wasn't trying to push you.
Get out of here.
Running behind.
Reserve. That's not my fault. Reserve fund transfer request. That was in your packets. So the amount I will be requesting is $2,600. The contract, the clerical contract, was approved after the budget was completed for FY20. So with the increase in wages, I have a shortfall. So I'm here to request for a $2,600 reserve fund transfer request to cover the wages for the assistant town clerk.
And that'll cover through the end of the fiscal year.
Yes,
Okay.
yep. And I have mine and Lisa's math. I don't know if it's attached as well.
It is not, but I trust you. James?
I'd like to make a motion that the reserve transfer request of $2,600 for the town clerk assistant wages, count 01161-51110, be approved and signed by the chair.
I will second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is approved.
On behalf of the assistant town clerk, thank you. No,
Just give me 1 second.
Yep.
We'll get that right back.
perfect. Oh, sorry, Robert.
That's okay.
Took up your time.
Here you go.
Good discussion.
All right, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, you as well.
Mr. Chairman, Selectman Livingston, in the interest of time, you have the warrants in your packet that I reviewed and approved since the board last met on June 4th. I'll get right into my action items, and if there are any questions from the board on anything, happy to take those. So the first item is appointments. I do want to thank Ms. Antonellis, as always, for organizing the appointments and reappointments. It's no small task reaching out to everybody. You have, again, in the interest of time, you have the detailed memo for all of the folks seeking to be reappointed or appointed. In most cases, it's reappointed, and we had great interest in our incumbents wanting to serve again. In the matrix, so we'd be looking for, respectfully recommending a vote to reappoint or appoint the individuals set forth in the June 14th memo. And the highlighted in the blue, unfortunately, I'll be very quick for the record, just the names for the public who's going to be appointed, reappointed. Cable TV Advisory Committee, Douglas Becker, it's 3-year term. The Conservation Commission, a 3-year term, George Bacon. The Conservation Commission, 3-year term, Mark Phillips. Council on Aging Board of Directors, 3-year term, Robert Hammond. Council on Aging Director, 3-year term, Janine Nikipour. Council on Aging, 3-year term, Catherine Pfaltzgraff. On the Cultural Council, and the board has seen, we do need some further members. Unfortunately, members on there by state law are limited. So unfortunately, Ms. Sheila Schwab, who's been the chair, and Ms. Deborah Pelly are not eligible for reappointment, but I do want to thank them, and we are advertising to get more folks. We are asking to reappoint Lauren Metzler to a 3-year term on the Cultural Council, and then there's another vacancy. The Energy Committee, a 1-year term, Carolyn McCreary. Energy Committee, 1-year term, Mr. Ken Diskin. Historical Commission, 3-year term, Ruth Romanis. Historical Commission, 3-year term, Barry Schwartzel. The IDFA is a 5-year term, Brian Anderson for reappointment. The IDFA, 5 years, Nick Lagus. The Pond and Dam Management Committee, 3-year term, Laurie Nearing. The Rate Review Committee, Mary Spinner. The Rate Review for 1 year, it's a 1-year term of a rate review. Rate Review, Mr. Rich Scotchless for 1 year. Janice Goodrow, 3-year term on the Recycling Committee. And Carolyn McCreary, 3 years on the Registrar of Voters. Lastly, the Business Community Rep remains vacant on the Rate Review Committee, and the Town Moderator has reappointed Mr. Terry Harville and Mr. Mark Smith to the Finance Committee for 3-year terms. So if there are questions, unless there's questions from the board, we'd look for a motion to appoint the individuals set forth.
How many seats are on the Cultural Council?
I think it's 9, and then they were looking to do an article to reduce that because they've been having
Yes.
quorum issues.
Yeah, that's a big committee.
And then, I feel like they did, right? Or they,
Wasn't there a question on the warrant for one of the committees to be reduced?
It got reduced to 9 because they used to have, they
13.
used to have
Oh, so
13
they just reduced
Yeah.
it
to
to
9, and
Oh,
now they
oh,
still
okay.
have some struggles, so yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And just quick question,
Yeah.
if I may, Mr. Chair.
Please.
So on something like the rate review committee, a 1-year term length,
Mhm.
just out of curiosity, why?
When the committee was created by the Board of Selectmen, it was set for 1, some are 3. So the Board of Selectmen does have the authority with its committees through a vote, to change that term. So rate review was 1, like capital planning committees 3. So some of the newer ones were you see a lot of 1 years. So it was really, it's at the discretion of the board unless set forth by bylaw or state law.
Can we make that change tonight, or not saying we would, because we don't want to surprise people who are thinking they're being reappointed for
Yeah.
1 year.
I was gonna go ahead and say, appoint Mary Spinner for,
Life.
perpetuity.
Yeah. I would recommend, Mr. Chair, under the open meeting law and so forth, the board is well within its authority to do that, for a future meeting, to just post it and have that
Yeah.
discussion.
Okay.
But the
Can we-
board-
Yeah, can we make a note of that,
Yep.
to
Yeah.
review that? Thank
Sure.
you.
It is a good question because many of them, to Selectman Livingston's point, are largely probably arbitrary, like why is one a 1 year or 3 year, but we can look at that.
Well, with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that all the recommended appointees listed by Mr. Pombrian be appointed.
I will second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye.
All right, thank
Everyone
you.
is reappointed. The Cultural Council is having a meeting on Thursday, correct? I think at 6:30, an
Mhm.
Yes.
informational session. If anyone's interested in the Cultural Council, it's urgent that we get members, because if we don't have quorum, then the state will step in and allocate the funds. I'm not really sure exactly how it works, but we would lose our local control over it.
Right. Yep.
We do not want that.
And then just lastly, Mr. Chairman, on the matrix that you have, Ms. Antonella's highlighted in blue the current selectmen representatives to the committees, and ultimately this is up to the Board of Selectmen, but yourself as the board, as the current rep, Capital Planning has Selectman Hillman, the OPEB Board of Trustees, Selectman Livingston, and the Rate Review Committee is Janice Livingston as well. So that's up to the board if you want to change those or continue.
I'm very happy. with my
I'd like to
board.
stay on my board, my
All right,
committee. Thank you
excellent.
very much.
It's good to hear. So
And I-
we're good.
And I believe, I
Check
can't
with
speak for
Selectman
him, but
Hillman.
I'm pretty, Selectman Hillman has been the chair of the Capital Planning Committee for some time, and it seems to be his
Can
thing,
we go
so.
ahead and reappoint him?
That is true, if need be.
Do we need to vote on the board? Members?
Yeah, why don't we,
Okay.
if the board would take a vote, that'd be
I'll
great.
make a motion to appoint Scott Hood to the Buy Board, Selectman Hillman to the Capital Planning Committee, Selectman Livingston to the OPEB Board of Trustees, and Selectman Livingston to the Rate Review Committee.
Seconded.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye. Motion passes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Lastly, just so the board is aware, we will advertise it for another 2 weeks. The vacancy on the planning board was advertised, and unfortunately, we have not received any applicants yet. Obviously, once we do, that's a subject to a joint appointment. We'll keep you posted. So we'll advertise it again for another 2 weeks, and we'll report back on the next meeting in July. The next item in your packet, as the board will recall, back on February 5th, Selectman Livingston had raised an issue which is a very interesting one, and one that is very current, and that is the idea of, or the issue of, establishing an Ayer internet, or as, depending how you look at it, a municipal internet service provider, or so forth. And because there's only really one major game in the town of Ayer, and that being Comcast, and ultimately the goal is to look for obviously the best internet, but also the issue of price. So since that time, I've been meeting weekly with the IT director, Ms. Knox. I also did meet with Mr. Diamond, who spoke that night before the meeting, and offered some interesting insights. I also talked to Mr. Doug Becker from APAC, because he was here when Verizon wanted to come in, and that got all kiboshed largely by the state. So it is doable. The challenge, in the interest of time, in the memo and in the interest of time tonight, if the board wants to continue this discussion, the challenge that we have is an issue of the infrastructure as it stands. So right now, as I mentioned, 98% of Massachusetts can get the internet. That doesn't mean it's necessarily the ideal. And 40% of Massachusetts has access to fiber optic service. Unfortunately, Ayer is not in that 42%. So the issue of the fiber. So right now, the most prominent way that people get their internet is through these bundle packages, and in this case, it's Xfinity. And Comcast has the infrastructure, if you will. Now, that doesn't mean somebody else couldn't come in, and we get into this whole discussion about, as technology develops, there could be some other infrastructure options, but they sort of have the monopoly on the traditional infrastructure. So the challenge before us is, I'll cut to the chase in looking at it, is that, and we talked to a lot of the communities that are ISPs, if you will, and one of the things, a lot of them like Concord and so forth, had a municipal light company, so they had some level of the infrastructure and so forth. We don't have that luxury, so they converted, to that. In the western part of the state, as we looked at, and that's where all of the state money is going right now, is what they call the last mile. And so the state it wants everybody to be connected in this spots in the Berkshires that aren't, but they are creating their own internets, but they're getting that state funding. Unfortunately, and I reference in the memo the significance of the governor's 2018 veto on creating the Internet Commission, is on the state level, the governor wants, in mass broadband, where the money goes through, wants all these last connected towns done first. So that's where we did talk to mass broadband, because to see what would be the funding available to help, do this. Now, you also have in Concord, where they have the internet, they have subscribers, so that would be a model too. I mean, I don't know if we could get to complete free internet. The first challenge is the technology infrastructure. Now, folks like Cindy, who are into this, and Pat more than I am, increasingly there are more wireless options. And one of the takeaways that I'll talk about is we put this as a standing item. It will be a standing item also with the IT committee, because there may be ways to do wireless internet as the technology is changing. We talked about doing it downtown and so forth, but there's increasing use in other parts of the country of wireless across a whole neighborhoods and so forth. So that's what we'd like to look into next. One of the things we'd have to keep in mind is also we don't have the existing personnel, and we're talking in a traditional system. Technology changes, so this could be a moot point. But like in Concord, the Concord Internet, which is run through the Concord Light Company, also has 3 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees. So I'm just saying that we'd have to take into account existing and future resources. A third challenge, which we also see as an opportunity, is changes in the technology. And we do have some resources in town that are real techno folks, including Cindy and so forth, that this wireless option is the new wave. And interestingly, the telecommunications lobbyists are trying to kill all efforts nationwide of municipalities doing anything because it's a threat to the competition. Then the fourth challenge is there would be some costs. And so we did, one of the companies we talked to, which is Magellan Consultant, and they do a lot of the initial feasibility study on studies for municipal internet, is an option to do a feasibility study. This is to look at all of the infrastructure, all of the issues. It'd be about $50,000. It's something that the board, may want to, consider or think about it. We could put it as a capital request. And then just to conclude, the pros of doing it, it does provide another option. And competition is good, and it would be municipally owned and controlled. On the con side is the existing infrastructure is a challenge, and we're going to continue to look at this wireless. I mean, we may be able to do wireless hotspots, but some have done whole neighborhoods. The infrastructure costs, talking of traditional infrastructure, and then the operational personnel and maintenance costs. I mean, in a way, you're creating almost like another little utility, if you will. So think of like the water, sewer, or so forth. But it has generated a lot of interest in discussion. We can get further information about the feasibility study. When we talk to them, it'd be about $50,000 to do a full, and this would give all of the details on what we need to do. And I've asked Cindy that moving forward, we keep this as a standing item for the IT committee that meets monthly to look into other options as well. The cable contract that we have with Comcast is coming up in 2 years. I did talk to APAC. Sometimes there are opportunities there for additional funds and so forth to look into it. Once the rest of the state gets connected to take away, I think that mass broadband will then increasingly have potential funding for further development, because the whole reason they wanted to create this commission was for the heirs of the Commonwealth. How do we improve it? And they want to get the Berkshires done. So there's a lot of information in there. I know I'm running behind on time, and we can, just continue to discuss at another meeting.
Well, Janice, it was your question. If you want to have further discussion, we're happy to do it tonight.
Well, I do have one specific question.
Yes.
So when I first brought up the idea, Lowell was saying that there was a grant or something.
Mhm.
Is that what you're talking about when you talk about the governor and everything?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Did Lowell get the grant? I know. Okay, good.
No.
Okay, good. Now I feel a little better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Second of all, I think you guys did a great job laying all this out. It certainly laid out exactly what I was hoping for. Not the answer I was hoping for, obviously, but I think we all kind of knew that there would be. But I really liked the thoroughness of it, and it pretty much addressed every question that I personally had thought of and whatnot. So I'm very happy about that, and I'm happy to hear that it's going to at least be a continuing conversation, because I think it is something to maybe just keep our eyes on.
Yeah.
And who knows? Like you said, technology. I mean, 6 months from now, you
Right.
never know.
Yeah.
Right.
So, other than that, I have no questions. But I thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate you bringing up, and I also appreciate you giving us some time to do our due
I
diligence.
did not,
so
I wanted
thank you.
it thorough, and I knew we were entering budget season and everything, and I thought, no, I really wanted a well thought out, and you guys did great. I think it really turned out nice, so thank you.
All right, we'll keep you posted.
Thank you, Robert.
So I have three reserve fund transfers as we're at the end of the fiscal year. The first one is for the management support account number 01154. The request is for $5,800 for the balance of the fiscal year. There's currently $1,322 in that budget. The unforeseen costs, the biggest driver was the printing costs, and we can talk about this, at a future meeting. But in FY19, we had budgeted $4,000 for printing, the warrants and all of those things. The company that we used to use, since the budget is no longer an option, and the only viable game is much more expensive. So printing for FY19, as opposed to being $4,000, which has covered it for years, was $8,639. That includes both of the town meetings that we had. That's another thing. It includes actually all three town meetings we had and the budget book. So that was the principal driver. The balance, so that was about $4,600 more than that was unforeseen. And then there's about $2,600 of that was, as I came before the board, the functions of the Board of Health admin were put with the administrative coordinator. So that ultimately, there was a $10,000 on the financial end savings of that, but there's about a $2,600 adjustment. So in the end, it's about $7,400.
Okay. On the printing is the town report, was that part of the printing?
Oh, yes, and
process?
that was part of.
So if we can try to get the budget book and the town report together somehow
Yes.
for next year,
Yep.
that should be a significant savings.
And we'll continue to look. I know Ms. Antonellis last year, we did, she did a memo on looking at, the costs and so forth. We'll continue to look for other options, but not for the purposes tonight, but we should have a discussion on that.
And Robert's actually sent out an email at my request to the surrounding town
Yeah.
managers, like, who are you using for your warrant printing?
Yeah,
Because there was the place in Devon's, which was great, and they were faster and cheaper. And the place we use now in Shirley is good, but it's definitely more expensive and slower. So we gotta build that into our calendar next year, for sure.
All right, well, I would like to make a motion that the reserve fund transfer in the amount of $5,800 for the account of management support, account number 01154, be approved and signed by the chair.
I will second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye. Reserve fund transfer is approved.
thank you, board. The next RFT is for for town planning, account 117555801, requesting $2,100 in the reserve fund transfer. The present balance in the budget is $4,520. The unforeseen, or I should say an extraordinary driver on this was there was an unforeseen significant cost increase in the amount of public hearing notices. So as this board can appreciate, the planning board, a lot of the things they do require public notices, public hearing notices, which have to be in the newspaper. This is another issue, as newspapers are not as common, those costs are up. The planning board remains very busy, which is a positive thing for the town, so there was an increase in the amount of public hearings that was unforeseen from when we did the budget. We've adjusted the FY21 budget moving forward to take that into account. But I also want to point out there were some scenarios in here at times where there was not a quorum of the planning board. It was very frustrating, and I appreciate the diligent members. I know Mr. Diskin is here that showed up religiously, but what happened is in some cases it was really, I'm going to say, the town's issue. We had to absorb those costs because it was no fault of the applicant, and you have the engineers here and everybody, and we don't have a quorum. So That was the big driver. There were a lot of unforeseen public hearing notices, which drove that.
Re-notification.
And re-notification, yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve a reserve fund transfer in the amount of $2,100 to account 01175-55801 as presented,
The signature by the chair.
with signature by the chair.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chairman says aye. It's approved.
And Mr. Chairman, the last one, and if there is an objection, I'd ask Mr. Johnson to come to the table, the benefits and payroll manager. The final RFT is for the FICA Medicaid, Medicare account, and seeking $1,000. The present in the budget is $4,350. And through you, Mr. Chair, let Kevin give the snapshot
Please
on
go.
that.
Mr. Chairman,
Welcome.
thank you. So, we're requesting $1,000 to get us through the end of the fiscal year. Quite frankly, there are some adjustments that need to be made. We're not sure exactly what they're going to mean. We finished the last payroll today. We're a little bit short, less than 1% of the budget line for the year. And mostly because of variables that are unknown. Increased labor costs, we had some police details, and some of those monies get funded back to us through a different revenue stream. As you alluded to a little while ago, everything runs through the general fund, different buckets though. So that's it in a summary. We're pretty close to target. First time in I think 4 years we've had to come back looking for an RFT. So
It's a good job on the other 3 years, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unforeseen things do happen.
they do.
Well, I'll make a motion, excuse me, to approve the reserve fund transfer in the account, in the amount of $1,000, named FICA Medicare, account number 01919-51740, and to be signed by the chair.
Second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chairman says aye. Approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Thank you.
No more money.
No more
No
money.
more.
No more. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for your support on all of the RFTs, including the town clerks. The last item, and I have the information in the packet, is, and actually Selectman Livingston brought this up some time ago, there is a class action from when Copeland and Page. Anyway, there is a class action suit currently underway with this Massachusetts opioid litigation. And there are 81 Massachusetts municipalities that are with these law firms suing the manufacturers of the various opioid medications, arguing, in the interest of time, holding them accountable for distribution tactics and so forth. In other words, the bottom line is the opioid epidemic has affected municipalities as it has countless families and everything else, and there's costs to it. Since the board last met tonight, I was talking with town council, recommended that we formally get with this class action. There are no costs to the town, so there's no costs incurred by our town council. If there is a settlement, of course, the law firms, they'll get a percentage of it, and then the rest will be divided by the 81 communities. So we have nothing to lose, and we have no upfront costs, and we have every reason to believe, town council, that there's going to be a settlement. We're not sure. In fact, I'm going to a meeting tomorrow in Framingham to get more information on this. So respectfully, what I'm just asking tonight is for the board just to ratify that decision
Bless you.
for us to be a party in this.
You have a question, too? Selectman Livingston?
No sooner did I see the packet, and I, you know, you sent out an email saying this was coming up and everything.
Yeah.
I actually seen it, I think it was on CNNnews.com. Other states are doing this also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean,
New
everybody's
Hampshire
getting,
filed
yeah.
suit about 3
Yeah.
weeks ago.
Yep, and then there's some other states that are listed, and I can't remember the amount of states and everything, so I'm all for it.
I agree, and there's 81 communities, there's an assumption almost that there would be more communities that will add to that.
Yes,
as
they
come along,
anticipate
too.
after tomorrow's meeting, because the cutoff is coming soon, that there'll be a point where you can no longer
Yeah.
join. They anticipate a final surge because they anticipate to be successful.
Okay.
So I would just be, Mr. Chair, just looking for a vote to just ratify the opioid class action suit.
I'll make a motion that the Board of Selectmen ratify the opioid class action suit as laid out by the town manager.
I will second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye, 2-0, passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll report back to the board the information I get. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the board's time. I know that we're running a little behind. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, new business, selectmen's questions. Mr. Hillman, Selectman Hillman's up first with utility poles, but we'll move that to our next meeting.
And we are working on that, but we'll report at the next.
Okay. The other item I wanted to talk about was the agenda process. So last year I'd asked about getting a preliminary copy of the agenda, just to kind of have a heads up of what was coming for the meeting, and I wanted to get just some feedback if either you or Selectman Hillman would think that would be helpful. Because personally for me, like, getting the agenda on like a Friday afternoon, and it's a lot bigger than I expected, it can be a challenge to prepare for.
Personally, I mean, I have no problem with it because, you know, usually, I mean, Robert's kind of given us an email to kind of give a heads up, and what I do like is like when he sends out the email to remind us to give the agenda items, that he kind of lays out going, hey, just so you know, this and this and this has happened, because that makes a big difference.
Okay.
Other than that, I mean, I'm fine with it when I get in on Friday. I have
All right.
no input for you,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, that's fine. And I talked to Robert and Carly about this last week, and I told them I don't want to do anything that disrupts their process and makes it more difficult for them. But I wanted to kind of throw it out there to get feedback. So we'll keep the same process. I'll talk to Selectman Hillman in the future, see if he has any desire to get a preliminary look at it. The other item, which I do want to bring up now that I'm sitting back in this chair, which is a little rusty after a year away, and it's a different venue. So for the meetings, to try and keep them open as possible. So, don't feel like you have to raise your hand, just be respectful of other people talking. I don't like being the one that does all the talking, in case you haven't noticed, so. I think
Now I want to make them talk all the time.
But I do want to try to stay on point and try to stay as close as we can to the what's germane to the conversation. So that's
I
my.
did, right? I just want to make sure I didn't mess
You
up
did-
the
you
first
did
thing.
okay. That's fine. That's fine. So that's all I have. Thank you. And the meeting minutes for June 4th, 2019. I reviewed them. I had no edits.
I have no issues. So with that, I'll make a motion that the meeting minutes from June 4th, 2019 be approved as submitted.
I will second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chairman says aye. It's approved.
Thank you. Ooh, sorry. Why am I thanking you?
Okay. Nothing else on the agenda for this evening, correct? No?
And Mr.
Okay.
Chair, we're scheduled for July
I
16th.
was just going to
Oh,
say
I'm
that.
sorry.
The next scheduled Board of Selectmen's meeting is Tuesday, July 16th. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn the Board of Selectmen at 8:58 PM.
Seconded.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye. Thank you very much for your time tonight.